took a dead body to his house one time. And I said, hey, man, guess what I got, man? He said, what's that? I said, I got some guy in the car. You want to come see him? And I'm looking at Jocko, and he had a terrified look on his face. We take him into an alley, and there's a couple other guys with us at this point. We take him out of the car, and he starts slapping him on the head. Pa! 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 He said, look at you, dummy. You're dead. And he keeps repeating it. Pa! Pa! Hey folks, my name's Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored. Once I dropped out of the Mexican Mafia, I was transported down to Walnut Sheriff Station. We sat down and we did multiple interviews, and these are the videotapes of those interviews. I find these fascinating because I haven't watched them in years, so it brings up a lot. I have up there in Pelican Bay. And it worked. Sustained response over 4 or 5 years now that I went to the therapy. For a year, I had shots, injections every 2 days. And it's kind of a mini chemotherapy type thing. Kind of drastic, the medication they use. I went through that, yeah. But I think most of the population in Pelican Bay has hepatitis. CDC actually.
60%, I think.
In the CDC, I mean, if it's not through sexual exposure, it's through tattoos, or it's through HIV epidemic. But fortunately, but in the second stage, it's got 4 stages. There was no serious damage to my liver, and I'm showing sustained response. Viral count is absolutely 0. It's undetectable. And I'm doing great. I feel great. I feel great. We're talking about that experimental treatment that came out in Pelican Bay. Crazy. Guys were getting hepatitis, and it was an epidemic in prison. Everybody had it, and they would not treat it. They would not treat hepatitis because it was too costly for them. So they would let guys get to stage 4, which is end stage, when they had ascites, the blown out stomach, swollen ankles, they're having a kidney and liver failure. That's when they would treat them. But by then it was too little too late. And nobody in prison ever got a liver transplant, to the best of my knowledge. I never met or heard of one person that got a liver transplant or was even put up for one. They weren't even candidates for it. Before we continue, like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. So the CDC's policy was just to let people die. It's really what it was. It wasn't written, but that was the effective policy because they refused to treat. And finally, somebody sued the CDC. They sued the CDC and said, you're letting me die. You're letting me die, and that's cruel and unusual punishment, and the courts ruled in their favor. So the CDC was forced to give treatment. And I went through the first wave. It was an experimental treatment at the time. It was this drug called interferon, which is used in some form of chemotherapy. And I remember I used to do these injections a few times a week, and there was irritability, and there was this taste in your mouth from the medicine. But thankfully, I went through the treatment and has sustained response for years. I went through a second round of treatment in Ironwood. I went to the Epclusa. That was the magic pill. That was so expensive to the CDC. It cost almost $90,000 a year to treat an inmate, and everybody had signed up. Everybody had signed up for Epclusa, and it was an amazing, amazing drug. To this day, I remain, a sustained responder, and I'm thankful, because if I had left it unchecked and untreated, I would have died. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I never really felt the hepatitis anyway. I didn't even know I had it.
So during all this stuff you were doing, in county and in prison and before the robberies that took you to prison, you were a heroin addict that whole time.
Heroin addict, yeah. Druggie. There's been runs where I had it every day in jail. Every day for sustained periods. I went to withdrawals in prison multiple times. In fact, I even overdosed in the county jail one time. I overdosed or near death at that point. As a matter of fact, you did a clip on that.
Yeah, we had you coming into court, I think, the day after.
Yeah, it's just... I remember that incident. It was me, Tuco, and Topo. And I told Tuco to fix me up a fat shot, and he did. In fact, it was too fat, because I woke up on the floor. And a guy named Timmy Tucker had poured some water on me. It was hot water from a Cambro. These Cambros are dispensers. They're kind of like thermal boxes that they put coffee in, but they're large, about 10-gallon boxes. And ours had hot water so we could make coffee. Every tier had one. And when I went out, they told him, pour water on him, wake him up. And camaradas from each side of my cell were throwing cold water on me. It didn't work. I was in respiratory arrest. But when Timmy Tucker poured the water on me, I woke up. But he poured it in my lap. Right? He poured it in my lap, and it gave me 3rd-degree burns. That's how hot the water was. I didn't even feel it, right? But I woke up, and I looked at him and said, call man down. They called man down, and I remember waking up in medical right there on the first floor, right past the visiting room. And paramedics were around me, and I think they gave me Narcan. I don't know, but I remember waking up, and I nodded out again. Then I woke up again, and I was in an ambulance. And a cop called me. He says, hey, boxer. And I was groggy. I was loaded. I was still loaded. I had just OD'd. And he says, do you hear me? I says, yes. And he chambers around in a 12-gauge pump. He says, did you hear that? I said, yeah.
He says, you know what time it is then, right? And I said, yeah. And we go to the general hospital, and we go up that long ramp, and I wake up again, and they're opening up the back of the ambulance. It's from the fire department. It's one of those red buses. They call it a bus, right? And they wheel me out, and there's a ring of SWAT officers around me. A ring, and they all have like automatic weapons and shotguns, and we walk into the hospital. And I'm coming in and out of consciousness, and I see homegirls and kids, and everybody's staring at me. And we end up in a hallway somewhere, and I'm nodded out. And at some point, I wake up, and everybody is staring at me. They're just staring at me. The whole emergency room is staring at me. And I can't figure out why. And then I'm looking back at them, and I see some beautiful women, right? I said, oh, wow, she's hot, or, there's kids right there, and there's a grandma. And then I realize why they're staring at me. I'm completely naked. I mean, not a stitch of clothing on. They cut them off of me. And I look at the nurse, and I says, hey, I'm naked. She says, oh, you're finally awake. And I said, can I have a sheet to cover up, please? And they gave me a sheet, and I covered myself up. That's why everybody was staring at me. I was sitting in the middle of the emergency room at General Hospital on Marengo, completely naked. They wheeled me up to the 13th floor of the jail ward, and I'm up there in the jail ward, and they come in and look at my burns, and what do? They prescribe me Demerol, which is an opiate, right? And they give me a shot right there, boom, and I go right back into the nod. For 3 days, I was loaded there. And then finally, they brought me back to the county jail. But that was the incident where I overdosed in the county jail.
And we're talking about how much would you use?
Oh, I could go through half pounds in 3 days.
My God.
Just huge amounts of dope. And then we're giving away, dope to people in the pod. Everybody that's there, all the members of Endo, and then we sell a little bit. But it was a serious heroin run we had there for the last few years.
So most all the mafia guys are heroin addicts.
95% of them
Yeah.
are heroin addicts. The last 5%, they don't use dope. Those are the guys who are doing strong business. Even some of the guys doing strong business are heroin addicts.
And what do you mean doing strong business?
Good crews, generating good money, got strong business acumen, are intelligent guys.
So that's a reality. Most cardenales are heroin addicts. There's very few that aren't. And those guys that don't use drugs are usually the best businessmen. But the rest of the cardenales, they're all substance abusers. They all get high. And some of them, that's all they really do is just get high. Like I heard Carlos Diaz, that's all he does is get high. And a couple other brothers just shoot dope. All they do, just shoot dope. And I get it, They have nothing else. And they've always been addicts. They can't beat their addictions. I don't condone drug use. I was a heroin addict. I was a poly-substance abuser, right? Which means multiple drugs. I would use anything. And I get why they do it. They're in pain still. And it's self-medicating. You're masking something. And getting high takes you out of that. But that's a reality. And I think that's the biggest drawback of the organization, that they allow drug use. If they abolish drug use and enforce that rule, it would be a powerhouse. It would have so much potential, but that's one of the things that holds it back. It would be a powerhouse. It would have so much potential, but that's one of the things that holds it back.
Jaco Padilla is one of them. Bona fide heroin addict. But he runs a big crew. He's got cartel connections. Makes good money. I had a strong crew. I had a successful crew. I had a great amount of influence in the organization. I was considered an intelligent guy. But I was a heroin addict for most of my career. Only the last few years I stopped using dope. And you know what? Nobody believes that I really stopped using dope. Nobody can believe it. They think it's some kind of lie. And it gets me. Because we were listening to a tape, me and my wife, recently, and they're speculating. Some members are speculating.
And that's the truth today. People still say, oh, your voice sounds funny. I know what that means. Or before he paroled, he was using heroin. That's all BS. That is straight BS. I haven't used dope in 20 years. And will never use it again. I just won't. I won't relinquish the gains that I've made through being clean. And you look at it, in retrospect, you're high and you do what you do. You shoot dope or whatever, right? And then you get to this point of abstinence. And you feel the difference, just the happiness that you feel from being clean. I can't equate it to anything else. There's nothing better than that feeling of being successful, being clean, being happy. Yeah, I just wouldn't relinquish it. But there are some people that still think I use dope. But God bless them. Let them think what they want.
About why I left. And they were talking about, we know why he left. He left for heroin. They don't even know that I stopped using heroin. Because it had to be heroin. He needed heroin because he couldn't get it anymore. And it's just ridiculous. We just got a huge kick out of that.
I remember that audio tape. I have it somewhere. I have that audio tape somewhere, but it's a cassette tape. Before we continue, let me tell you about Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. We created a new page, buymeacupofcoffee.com at Uncensored Team. There's also a QR code that you can scan. It's a new way to support the channel. We have no affiliation with the past Buy Me a Cup of Coffee page, and I'd encourage all our viewers and supporters not to donate there. This is the only official site. In fact, on this page, we are now selling autographed copies of The Black Hand. Be sure and get your copy while supplies last. I will personally inscribe them with a personalized message and sign them personally and ship them out to you within 5 working days after your order. That is a guarantee. But it was Richard Aguirre. Richard Aguirre was talking long smack. He was a dope fiend. He left up for heroin because he couldn't get heroin. That's why he locked up, and making all this rank speculation, right? Didn't even know I had been sober for years. And it didn't even realize that. But, you know, everybody comes up with their stories. I am going to run that tape at some point, though. I have a bunch of Cardenales on audio, right? And some on videotape as well.
Well, let them think what they want to think. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks now. What matters is that I know, and that she knows. You know, those people that matter most to me know where I'm at. And I didn't go through that traditional 12-step thing, or, you know. I've actually completed all those courses via correspondence. But it just got to a point where I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to do it. I got fatigued with it. Even the smell of wine now that we used to make that wine gets me sick. I smell it and I'm not saying the desire to get high isn't there sometimes, because sometimes it is. Sometimes I can think back to that euphoric feeling. But I know today I'm okay. And that's all that matters, is today I'm okay. Right?
Tuco Castro was a heavy heroin user.
Oh, yeah. He was a huge, I used to shoot dope with that guy. I took a dead body to his house one time in the backseat of a car.
True story. Ernie Castro, Tuco Castro, in the hotel meeting series, right? When we had those black and white FBI videos up. Tuco was an informant at that time for the FBI. But when I was active, I had taken care of some business, right? And Tuco had just gotten out that day. He had just got released. And I wanted to go see him. So we had just finished eliminating this guy. We had potentially overdosed him. We had potentially overdosed him. It was David Loco from Maravilla. And we had his body in the backseat of the car. He had already expired due to the massive amount of substance that was injected into his arm. He was given a hot shot. Again, contrary to popular belief, a hot shot is not a substance mixed with some poison. It's just an intentional overdose. So he had already expired, and he was covered up in the back with a sarap. And so we go to Chuco's house. I stop and get him a 6-pack of beer. I get his wife some donuts. And I take some cash and a big chunk of substance, right? I tell him, here you go, bro. And we hang out in this house. I tell him, come here, check this out. And we took him to the car. And we showed him who was in the back seat. And don't you know that Tuco does the craziest thing? He opens up the back door and he flips back the sarape to expose the guy's face and head. And he starts slapping him on the head. Pa! 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 He said, look at you, dummy. You're dead. And he keeps repeating it. Pa! Pa! Look at you, dummy. You're dead. And we all just busted up laughing, right? He covers him up with the sarape. We take the guy to an alley. And boom, boom, boom. He's finished off coup de grace with 5 rounds from a .357.
One of my murders, David Gallegos.
Tell us about that.
Oh, we get David Gallegos, and we incapacitate him with heroin. This is at the point in time, I think I told you earlier, that
Took him in the house.
took him in the house, we give him a hot shot, and Jaco Padilla cooks it up, and I administer it, and then Jaco goes and cooks another one and administers that. And we want to make sure this guy's out. The guy even wakes up when we're giving a shot, and he looks at me and says, what are you doing, trying to kill me? And I tell him, no, just relax, man. We're trying to give you some coke here to wake you up. And the outfit, he knows it's coming. I mean, he knows we're doing this to him. Because the outfit's black as tar, filled, you know, just to the top, with about this big, filled with black oil heroin. And he looks at it and he just, I guess he wanted to go the easy way. He knew we were going to kill him.
Yeah.
So we just, and he goes out. Boom, he goes out. And so we load him into the back of the car. And me and Jaco take him down to Chuco's house. I had scheduled to meet Tuco earlier.
Stick him in the trunk?
No, in the back seat.
Oh.
If we got pulled over, we're going to tell the cops, the guy's just loaded, man. He's messed up. Look at him. Because he's still sawing logs back there. We know he's going into respiratory arrest. But if we get pulled over, we're going to tell the cops, he's just loaded, man. We're just taking him home. Have any weapons on us? The guys just in the back. We're going to Chuco's house because we have a prior meeting. And this guy just happed upon us and just fell in our laps, really. And so we're going to kill him anyways. He was on the lease time. So we stopped and buy donuts for Tuco's wife and a couple six-packs of Corona, ice cold.
While he's in the back of the
In
car.
the back of the car. We got a body in the back of the car. And at some point he expires. He expires. You know, we know that this guy's gone. He's not moving. He's not doing anything. So we're going up in Tuco's house and we're kicking back. And Tuco just got out. He just got out the night before. He's spent the night with his wife. And they had a good time. We're talking to her. And I had to bring her some donuts, some yum-yum donuts. Mm-hmm. And me and Tuco have a few beers and we're talking. I give him some money. We had quite a bit of money at the time. I give him some money. And I have a lot of heroin. I give him some heroin. And we're talking. I say, hey, man, guess what I got, man? He said, what's that? I says, I got some guy in the car. You want to come see him? He says, who is it? I says, that guy, man. I think he's dead.
Yeah, I remember this clear as day. I think Tuco was living in Downey with his wife Lorraine, and we went there and we pulled over to that parking port where they had a little. And I remember clear as day. We were kicking back in the house like nothing. We got a dead body in the back seat, and we're like, yeah, okay, cool. We're gonna go dump it right now. But in retrospect, it's crazy. You look at it. This is a crazy life. It really was.
So we go on the back of the house in the apartments where he's living over there. I think it's Alhambra. I think he's living somewhere around there. And he goes to the back of the car. He says, oh, this fool. He says, this guy's a car. And he starts telling me about the time when the guy ran. And Tuco leans inside the car and starts slapping him on the head. Pow! And it's ridiculous, comical almost. Yeah. Did he slap at this guy in the head and the guy's dead? And he says, what are you going to do with him? Did he slap at this guy in the head and the guy's dead? And he says, what are you going to do with him? So we tell him, well, you know, we're going to take him and we're going to finish it. You know, we're not sure that he's all the way gone. He might still have a little kick in him. He says, all right. He says, call me when you're done. So I said, okay. So we go for a drive. We're courts on Hunter and Spencer. I think it's Spencer. Mm-hmm. Right behind the courts in an industrial area on East LA.
It's right behind Jim's Burgers off of Olympic and Grande Vista. It's Spence Street. That's where the finality of this occurred. It's an industrial spot. In fact, my dad owned a factory there at one time, right behind Jim's Burgers off of Grande Vista and Olympic. That's where he started his first company, right? And it was in that area. It was very secluded, very dark. I mean, the perfect place to eliminate somebody. There were no cameras back then. There were just alleys and train tracks, and that's where he got it.
We take him in an alley, and there's a couple other guys with us at this point. We take him out of the car, and we shot him multiple times. I shot him, actually. I shot him. Everybody else was nervous. Even Jocko was nervous at that point. I remember seeing Jocko when I shot the guy.
We just pulled him out of the car?
I pulled him out of the car, out of the back seat, and I laid him on the ground, and I covered his head with a seat cover, because I didn't want him to splash. And I remember turning around, and I'm looking at Jocko, and he had a terrified look on his face, and his fingers were in his ears, like he was trying to, like this, like scared, terribly scared.
Yeah, I pulled the guy out, and I lay him on the ground. I cover him with a seat cover, because I don't want splatter to get on me, like brain splatter, so that's why I did that. It wasn't a thing of intimacy, because the running theory in criminology is that when you cover somebody's face, it's because you knew him, or it displays some form of intimacy, right? I met the guy once in Folsom. They gave me the contract. I did it. I just didn't want his brains getting on me. Oh, and Jocko, he was scared to death. I knew this guy wasn't a killer. I knew he was afraid. Just the look, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to eliminate this guy. And he's afraid, like terrified. And I sent him down the end of the alley. I said, make sure you see Popo, then let me know. And I sent another guy down the other end of the alley, and he's keeping point down there. So me and Mo are right there, and I do it. Mo helps me pull the guy out, and boom, 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 boom. We do it, right? And I look back while I'm firing, and Jocko's got his ears plugged, and he's got this horrific look on his face, like he's scared. He's really scared. And it put me off. I thought he was a gunslinger, and he never was. He never was a gunslinger.
And I looked at him and told him, what's the matter with you? Nothing. He said nothing. He just, played his own.
Already dead anyway.
Yeah, he's gone. I mean, but I guess he was scared. I don't know. He'd never seen anybody shot in the head or something.
Hadn't he killed anyone before?
Jack's never killed anybody in his life.
Yeah.
Or so. He claims to have killed a woman one time by strangling her with a sock. Mm-hmm. He had picked up some girl and went to a trailer, but I don't believe it. I think it was a story, a made-up story. Jack doesn't strike me as a killer. I've always known that about Jack. Mm-hmm. He doesn't strike me as a killer.
I remember that story. He told me when he was my cellie. He said he had met some girl, and he took her back to a trailer, and they had sex, and he ended up strangling her for some reason with a sock. But I honestly thought that was made up. It didn't sound authentic when he told me. But that was his story. That was just the one body he's claimed he had, but never heard about it on the news or anything like that. Not that I would. Not that one homicide somewhere in California would hit the news because there's thousands of them that occur. But like I said, I didn't feel the authenticity when he told me that story. I think he was just making stuff up.
Other than participating in these murders that I've done, you know, being there and helping carry the body, he's never killed anybody. You know, he's always got along, and he got in on my coattails. Jack got in. Tuco made Jack for me. I asked Tuco Castro to make Jocko for me, and I made Tuco's brother Eddie. Remember Eddie? Did I, Ed?
Yeah.
I made Eddie for Tuco, and Tuco made Jocko for me. One of those under the table deals where you sponsor him and I'll sponsor him. That's how we did that. But we took that body to his house and we showed him the body, and classic tale in the mob too. It's a classic tale in the mob. You know, this guy's came over to my house with a dead body, and you know, it just goes on and on. It takes on his whole life. And pretty soon he had him in the trunk cut up, and you know, it's just stories that go on and on and on, you know? And pretty soon he had him in the trunk cut up, and you know, it's just stories that go on and on and on, you know? But that's really the gist of the story right there.
So then you just drove off and left him there?
We left him in the alley.
Yeah.
And then I called Rocky Luna on Widow Shy and told him, yeah, that thing is done. I said, okay. And I let everybody know.
What kind of a weapon did you have?
357, Mark IV.
And the warrior had his fingers on his ears.
It was a big gun. It's a big gun. Yeah.
And what are the details of killing? Was it Sylvia or Cynthia?
Cynthia is the female that was ordered eliminated by me. She was the sister-in-law of Big Spider, David Gallegos Cantaranas, and she was actually stealing from us. And I gave the order to eliminate her, and Little Mo took her and eliminated her. I mean, in retrospect, it's horrible, right? And I'm talking about it really glibly here, right? Almost capriciously. Like, there's no emotion affixed to this in that video, and I see that right now. But as I got older and I matured and I understood, like, who was I to say, okay, eliminate that person, take that person, and victimize their whole family by removing them? Yeah, it's really a shame. It really is a shame.
Well, it came about with, we found out she was skimming. I think I briefly scratched the thing. And we're sitting around, and me, Jack, and Mo, were deciding what to do with her.
Who caught her skimming, actually?
I did.
You did.
Yeah, I'd give her sealed up 8 balls. Money would come up short. And it was a perpetual thing with her. We'd set something down and it'd come up missing. It was always her around there. So we knew it was her. We knew she was stealing. And I said, like, in retrospect, we look at it and we say, all of us have agreed that, you know, we didn't have to kill that girl. It just wasn't, it didn't merit that. Didn't merit a murder. We could have just knocked her on the head one time and sent her on her way, or just sent her on her way. You know? Just wasn't worth a human life for that.
Yeah.
But we're sitting around, we're talking. I think I came up with the idea, let's pop her. And Mo says, I'll go do it. I'll go take her for a ride. I know the perfect place. And Jocko gave him the gun. Jocko gave him a 357, another 357. It's a different 357, but it's the exact same type, Mark IV. And Mo takes her for a ride. Takes her to Russian Hill. And he has her looking in the weeds for some. He says, you know what, I have a bunch of dope. Come with me. To get it, we're going to pick it up. I'm going to get you high. I'm going to give you some of it. But she sensed something was wrong. She sensed it. Because at some point when they pulled up to a stop sign, she wanted to get out of the car and take off. But Mo talked her back in. He says, come on. Where are you going? Don't worry. Everything's all right. And he takes her back to this place.
Just Mo and her.
Mo and her, yeah. They went out and did it on their own. I wasn't there. I didn't shoot the girl or nothing like that. Didn't have anything to do with murdering her.
Actually, I had everything to do with murdering her because it was my word that did it. And you realize that later in life. You understand that whether you were peripherally involved or you pulled the trigger, if you participated, you're just as responsible. And I understand that. And I remember Mo telling me that she got the heebie-jeebies when he was riding with her. Because Mo was a scary little guy. Mo was a killer. Mo was a killer. Jocko wasn't. And I guess she was sensing that vibe off of him that there was imminent threat. And she tried to bail from the car as soon as they pulled up to a red light. But Mo stopped her and just told, hey, don't worry, everything's cool. We're going to go get high right now. And that's what kept her in the car.
There's a certain
Physically.
animal instinct that
Really?
you have. That I've seen that before.
I've experienced it before. You know, people have a sense of evil or a sense of their own mortality when it's somebody who intends to do wrong. I mean, you feel that. You can sense it. Even with people that are smiling in your face, and I've sensed it 1,000 times in the mob. You know, people are talking to you in the visiting room, and you're speaking with them, and you're pretty good with them, but you have some sense that these people mean you wrong. And I sense that over and over in the mob. I had really good relationships with people, and I'd have conversations with them where we're doing transactions, we're making money. It's just the basic feel you get from it.
I would get that from Cardenales all the time. Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? But the undertone, the inflection of the words or their body language always told me, that guy's not your friend. That guy is not your friend. In fact, I never felt comfortable as a Cardenal, to be honest. I never felt that there was somebody that was really my friend in there. I think Daryl was my only friend, and that's the only guy I felt comfortable with. Shy was my friend, but Shy wasn't around anymore. But in Pelican Bay, it was just Daryl. That's all I had was Daryl. But I never really felt comfortable. Even with Daryl, I didn't. It's just a way that you come up in the mob. It's what I experienced. It was my experience. I'm not saying that all Cardenales feel that way. I mean, there may be brothers now that are friends with everybody, and they get along great. But I had this feeling that some Cardenales didn't like me, and I was accurate. I mean, like I got along with some, not many, but the majority of the time, I felt like, yeah, I don't trust that guy. I'll say hi to him and I'll be cordial. He's a Cardenal, but that's about it.
This person doesn't like me, and he wants to kill me. And you knew that. And you'd smile right back at him, and you'd think in your mind, well, I don't like this guy, and I want to kill him. And he'd sense the same vibe. I mean, you're emanating the same animosity towards each other, but it's masked with this plastic smile and this false sense of camaraderie. And it's ridiculous. You have to function this way. But with Cynthia, Mo takes her. I wasn't present during the murder, but he takes her to Russian Hill and he shoots her one time between the eyes while she's looking for this bag of dope. This wasn't there, and then as she spins, he shoots her in the back. So he shot her twice, and she expired on the scene instantly. I mean, it was a perfect shot right between the eyes, and she was gone right there. And they found her the next morning. She was killed the day before Christmas Eve, or Christmas Eve.
That's right, I'd forgotten that,
And the next guy was New Year's Eve. So Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. I think it was in that time frame right there. There were 2 bodies killed within a week period. And they were after me after that. I mean, they were all over me. They were looking everywhere for me.
The cops.
Yeah, because it wasn't a secret. Even though nobody rolled, everybody knew who did the murders because we're the only mobsters in the area, and those are mob hits.
So here's what happened is all the guys from White Fence hated me, right? They did not like me because I was robbing them all. So they started informing. They started calling the cops, saying he's over here, and he's over here. And we would just on a fluke leave that spot at that time, and cops would end up showing up. And maybe a couple weeks later, they arrested me for those murders right there.
Fresh out.
Yeah. Mexican Mafia member hit, and a person working on the Mexican Mafia crews hit into my turf, White Fence. We didn't have the sophistication of going and dumping them in another jurisdiction or anything like that. I mean, we just dumped them right there in our own front yard. I mean, this sophistication in criminal activities comes hard-earned, We weren't the sharpest guys in the beginning, We're just dope fiend gang members trying to be mobsters.
But that was the truth. We weren't advanced in our intellect. We were just thugs. Dope fiend thugs whacking people. The real repercussion of going to prison for murder didn't scare me. That didn't scare me. Didn't scare me at all. I had no problem going back. I mean, I was out there putting in work. That's what I was supposed to do. And that's the shame of it, right? When you really look at it, that a person cares so little for his life that he doesn't even care about going back to prison for the rest of his life. And that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. We got a live tomorrow. Don't forget that. We got a live tomorrow at 5 p.m. See you there, folks. Have a great weekend. Peace out.